Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and with the recent buffs to the attack helicopter in the recent patch, I was really crossing my fingers that the vehicle was finally going to be viable in the game. It was finally going to be a vehicle that you could jump into, you could have fun with some friends, and if you had the teamwork and you had some coordination, you could actually go on a kill streak with it. And while there were some brief glimpses of that glory when I tried it out for a couple of rounds, it's still a pile of crap. Like, this is still easily one of the worst vehicles in the game, and it's not because it doesn't have the firepower. Like, in the recent patch, DICE went in and they gave it a little bit more power. It now does more damage with its Zuni rockets, and the gunner does a little bit more damage with his main cannon, which is fantastic, but there's just still so many other things that are holding back this vehicle, and it mainly just comes down to its survivability. So right now, you probably are aware that there is just an absurd amount of things that can take out helicopters in the game. Like, DICE really ramped up the customization and really just the amount of things that can lock onto vehicles and that can shoot down helicopters. We have the SRA, we have all the lock-on missiles, we have the new active radar, we got the AA that's ridiculously overpowered. I'm not going to go into everything because you probably already know what a large majority of them are, but it's a huge upgrade from what we had back in Battlefield 3. And because of all of these things that are flying at you and locking onto you in Battlefield 4, it's very hard to go on a kill streak or even to take out really anyone on the battlefield. I understand what DICE was going for. They were trying to create a vehicle that was more of a hit and run. It was a glass cannon so that you would go in, you do a lot of damage, and then you would have to retreat, because if you didn't retreat and you overstayed your welcome, you were going to get locked on, you're going to get shot at the sky by a SRA, all the different things were going to take you out very quickly, and so you needed to go in, do your damage, activate your countermeasure, and then get the hell out of there. And while I would say with the recent patch, it has made things better for the attack helicopter. Like, you do an incredible amount of damage now against enemy vehicles, but because there are so many things holding it back with its survivability, you don't get the experience where you get to retreat away from those engagements. Like, you go in, you do some damage, and then you're basically a sitting duck and you just get taken out. And so I wanted to talk about what I think needs to happen to make the attack helicopter finally a viable option in the game. I don't want to make it overpowered. Like, admittedly, back in Battlefield 3, it was on the overpowered section of the scale. Going 50-1 in a round, admittedly, is a little broken, but we need to make it so that when you jump into this vehicle, it's actually an enjoyable experience and contributes to the match and isn't just free points to anyone that locks onto it with a Stinger missile or all of the other numerous anti-air vehicle weapons in the game. And so the first thing that has to be addressed is that countermeasures need to be reliable. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a helicopter, I've activated my countermeasures, be them ECM or flares, and they don't do anything. The rocket still flies into your hull, you get the mobility hit, you're left floundering, you can't move, and then because you don't have any countermeasures for like 20-25 seconds, they lock onto you again with the thousands of Stinger missiles and then quickly take you out of the sky. That happens way too often in Battlefield, and I don't know if it's the netcode, I don't know if it's because of the current mechanics, but honestly, if I activate my flares and something was locking onto me, I should be safe from any type of anti-air weapon for at least a couple of seconds. You know, RPGs or SRAs, that's fine, but if something is locking onto me and I activate my countermeasures, it shouldn't hit my vehicle unless I activated them just as it was about to hit my hull. Like, you should have at least some sort of defensive mechanism in these vehicles. The other thing that needs to be done is that the TV missile needs to be fixed. You guys probably remember this back in Battlefield 3, but if you launched your TV missile, it would sometimes blow up your attack helicopter. It was infuriating back in Battlefield 3, and for whatever reason, it's still the same problem in Battlefield 4. It doesn't instantly take out your helicopter because it only does 80% of your vehicle's health, but still, like, 80% of your health is almost dead, especially if someone is shooting at you with anything. Like, if anyone is sneezing in your general direction and you only have 20% health left, you're probably not going to last very long. And when you're playing as a gunner and you're just flipping the coin, should I use my TV missile in this situation? It could get us killed. It could take out that vehicle very quickly. It just sucks that you have to work around or even have to consider that this could potentially blow you up. So that honestly just needs to be addressed as fast as possible. And so if DICE was able to just do that, if they were just able to fix those damn bugs, it would be a step in the right direction and it would make the helicopter a lot more enjoyable. But I still think that there needs to be a little bit more done. And this could come in multiple forms. The first thing that I think would be a step in the right direction is to give it more maneuverability. One of the reasons why the little birds and the scout helicopters are so effective isn't just because you can repair them inside of it, which is really powerful, but but also because they have an absurd amount of maneuverability. This basically makes it much more challenging for rockets such as RPGs, straws, and the SMAs to take you out on the ground. You still have to worry about getting behind cover if there is a Stinger missile or one of the anti-air missiles trying to lock onto you, but because you have that high maneuverability, it makes it much easier for you to duck behind cover, go over strafe runs over one of these objectives, and survive those firefights. And because of that maneuverability, it is one of the main reasons why people are gravitating on over towards that vehicle over the attack helicopter. And while I don't think that they should be the same type of maneuverability, like we want to still have that same distinction between the two vehicles, I still think that if they bumped up the movement and the maneuverability of the attack helicopter, it would be a huge step in the right direction, because not only would it allow pilots to have a little bit more skill and control over the vehicle, allowing them to duck behind cover, it would also allow them to be a little bit more unpredictable. One of the things about the attack helicopter is that once you head in a certain direction, it's going to take you a while to try to deviate from that path, and because of that, people on the ground and vehicles can use that knowledge to their advantage. So if they're using an RPG or a SRA, it makes it very easy for them to take you out, or at least relatively easy to take you out, because they can predict your movements. This is also true for the AA vehicle because of the active radar in the game. If they know that you're heading towards one of the objectives and they know that you're not going to be able to move from that path very quickly, it makes it extremely easy for them to just shoot a couple of rockets where they expect you to go, and because of the current movement mechanics in the game, they're gonna hit almost 100% of the time. And so at least for me, I honestly think that if they just increased the maneuverability, allowed you to have a little bit more versatility in your movement in the attack helicopter, it would be a huge step in the right direction. Another thing they can do, and this doesn't necessarily have to be alongside increasing the movement, like they can do one or the other, is to reduce the reload speed of the flares, or give flares back to the gunner so that you can use them in tandem. Because DICE decided to increase the reload speed of the flares, but also at the same time increase the amount of things that can lock onto you in Battlefield 4, it's made it so that if you just expose yourself for a couple of seconds, you get locked on from every single direction. And when you try to go for a hit and run type of maneuver, you go in, you destroy one vehicle, and then you try to get the hell out of there, because it takes such a long time for you to regenerate your flares, even though you're on the retreating end of that tactical maneuver. You went in, you blew up a tank, but now you're on the run section, even though you're a mile away from the firefight, because it takes such a long time for you to regenerate your countermeasures, you die. So sure, you got the hit part of it, and then you went for the run, but because of the current mechanics and the reload speed on the flares, you don't survive that firefight. And so what I think needs to be done is to either reduce the flare reload, or maybe just give a very long reload for the gunner position. You guys will probably remember that back in Battlefield 3, and I've also mentioned this in a previous video, is that the gunner had flares in the attack helicopter. And while admittedly it was overpowered back then, because you could basically just fire them off back to back, and it almost made them invincible up in the sky. Like the attack helicopter back in Battlefield 3 with that combination was extremely powerful. But in Battlefield 4, if you made it so that the gunner also had flares, but it was on maybe a 50 or 40 second cooldown, you could then have these scenarios where you go in, you activate your countermeasures with the pilot, you take out a couple of people, and then when you retreat, you have your gunner fire his flares, and then probably a couple seconds later have you fire off your flares once again, and then you're finally at the fringe of the map in a safe location. Then you finally achieve what I'm assuming DICE wants, is for the attack helicopter to be a hit and run type of vehicle. They can't go back in for a good 40 seconds because they have to wait for their gunner flares to regenerate, but it finally allows them to survive those engagements. This will then allow the people on the ground to, get a front line established. Maybe if they're hating the attack helicopter in the sky, they can switch on over to a TV missile, but it would actually allow the attack helicopter to survive those hit and run types of scenarios, which is currently not what it can do right now in Battlefield 4. And so, at least for me, if either of these two suggestions, alongside fixing the bugs, it would be a massive leap in the right direction. I truly want to have the attack helicopter to be enjoyable in Battlefield 4, and while maybe this won't even fix it, maybe I'm completely oblivious and I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I truly do believe that at least if one of these actions is taking place alongside with these bug fixes, it would be fantastic for this vehicle overall. But I would love to know what you think of these suggestions, or even if you have your own suggestions yourself. Is there something that you think would make the attack helicopter a little bit more viable? Or even do you think that the attack helicopter is fine as it is? Let me know down below in the comment section. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.